Hey, hey, it's Christine Walsh. Welcome to Made for Money, the podcast made for women like you who know they are made for money. And I'm your host, financial coach for the past 10 years, accountant for the past 15-ish years, and previous Wall Street senior vice president turned ski bum and serial entrepreneur. I've seen a lot and I've heard a lot when it comes to money and women. This is season 2 of Made for Money. The first 13 episodes have been about my approach to money and my philosophy to money. It's an approach that's considered outside the box. It's innovative, it's thought-provoking, and it's thinking about money differently. Look, the game of money has changed, but for many of us women, our operating system and how we think about money and how we feel about money and how we act with our money hasn't kept up. And so this podcast is about changing that. Welcome back. I'm Christine Walsh, and this is the Made for Money podcast. I'm so glad you're here, and thanks for listening in. So this week, we're talking about a 4-letter word, and I'm just going to put it out on the table right away. It's called debt. Yes, that 4-letter word. Did you feel it? Because it definitely can be a visceral body feeling for most, especially us good girl entrepreneurs. So over the past few episodes, I intentionally am diving into the practical side of money and will continue to do so for the foreseeable several next episodes. We talked about how important cash flow is in your business. It's actually the lifeblood. We talked about the assets in your business right now, what you own and how to leverage them, and how we show up to building the business like we're building an asset. And then we talked about recurring revenue in another episode, which creates stability in your business. So we've been building like a woman. But with all that, it is important to clear the decks on what is in the way, particularly as we're building. We need to continue to prune and review what might be in the way, because as we're building, new things are going to come up. In season 1, we talked a lot about the energetics of money, limiting beliefs, our shadow work, our values, and identity around money and your relationship to money. So important. There are energetic blind spots when we're talking about the energetics of money, but being in season 2, where we're getting really boots on the ground, down and dirty with the practical side of money, that means we need to talk about the elephant in the room. And that's the 4-letter word of debt. So you could have done all the money work, still feel stuck. And if there's anything under of all of that, it could be debt. And it's usually not about the amount of debt. It can be, but it's about the meaning we give that number, the story women give it, the identity they think they are because they have it, or who they might become if they take it on. So today we are going to just clear the plate here, because debt can actually be a super powerful tool for a founder's business if used well, and particularly in conjunction with my favorite topic, cash flow. And we'll get into that. So let's dive in. Let's free up some financial trauma around this word and this concept, and talk about our theme this season, which is leverage, and how to leverage debt the right way, because it actually can be, like I said, that power move. Okay, so where did debt come from? And believe me, I'm not going to dive into some deep history lesson as much as just debt, just like money was at one time a neutral tool, just used to offer folks resort when their own resources were not available or needed, right? I think if I had apples and you had bananas and I didn't want your bananas, we couldn't barter anymore. So we actually had this middle thing called money, the great neutralizer. Still is, but it's definitely got its baggage on it now. So it is neutral. And unfortunately, the collective of us have made it quite personal, perhaps even moral to that point. So you probably have learned that many people would even say, financial experts, of course, would say that debt is bad. You want that zero debt balance. And I agree with that to a degree. But I think what really gets confusing is when we use our working class, middle class, employee class mindset that debt is bad, which again, to a degree can be when we are as entrepreneurs and founders and looking at that credit card debt or that revolving debt versus business debt and the difference between those two. And we've made the tool, we painted a broad brush over the tool in general that it's all bad. It's very black and white, and that's not the case. And we do that with money too. And we just need to stop that because there's so many different degrees of how we can use this tool. And this is the invitation here at Made for Money and the podcast that I'm creating and the information and the leadership around money that I want to invite you all into. So we're here to give debt a new definition for the evolved woman founder that is you. So debt is borrowed capital used to create a return. That's what the statement we'll use. Debt is borrowed capital, create a return, period. No drama, no financial drama. Because the problem is that debt gets racked up with no return for the most part. So we want to turn the tables on this, where debt is actually this tool, which is capital, that we use to create a return. And I will be the first to step in and talk about not knowing the difference when I plucked that Macy's credit card app off of the bulletin board in my accounting classroom, nonetheless, next to my desk, and proceeded to rack up hundreds, perhaps even a couple of thousands of dollars, which was a lot for a college girl on clothes and meals and restaurants when I had nothing coming in and absolutely no idea that those things would not give me any return, or I had no intentionality around them. Just a little bit of joyride for half a minute and then several years of angst on paying that off and my dad's disappointment, which is always fun. So to be clear, right, we've all been there. We all have used debt in certain ways. And I want to make a clarification around two types of debt that we can talk about here today. Consumer debt, and particularly consumer debt that doesn't get paid off each month, because I think more often than not, we are using credit cards more so than cash. So or it could be a debit card, but for some of us, we are using those credit cards and we are not paying them off. So this is for that kind of debt that's not getting paid off each month. It is not intended to generate a return. It may be used for emotional spending, perhaps, and it usually has high interest rates. And then there's the other side of the coin, productive debt. So consumer debt, productive debt. And this is more debt that is used or invested with growth in mind, building an asset. It has the capacity for a return on investment if a strategy is applied to it, if intentionality is applied to it. We can leverage time with productive debt. We can leverage revenue. We can leverage assets. Some great examples of this might be offering a product and you have equipment to produce that product. We invest in that. We use debt to invest in that capital equipment so that we can create more goods to sell. Intellectual property, team, systems, like we're investing in our own growth, right? I had a podcast around how we the greatest investment is in ourselves, and then using our being, our experience, our expertise to create revenue. So my point here is to consider not avoiding debt because you got a Macy's card back when and, didn't know what to do with it back then. You probably just didn't have the awareness of how to work with debt in this more powerful way. And an opportunity here is to discern what debt is supporting you and what debt is not. And intentionality is the key word when it comes to debt. It's the kind of the magic word. So how do we do that? Okay. My take is always first to look at the debt and get the numbers out in the open. For many of us, when we are in shame around money, or in this case, debt, it's because it's swirling in our heads. We're all on our own around it. We haven't really looked at it from just the facts, ma'am. So if you need to do a breathing exercise or run around the block first or do some jumping jacks, change the energy, meditate. Because I'm sober, I normally wouldn't suggest a glass of wine, but if that's your thing, if that helps you, great. And set yourself up for some super win it, in it to win it kind of energy. And with the debt, you just want to list out 5 things. The name of the debt, whether it's a Citibank credit card or the loan from, Wells Fargo for your home or whatever, the interest rate, the minimum payment, the current balance, and the credit limit. The name of the debt, the interest rate for each, the minimum payment for each, the current balance for each, and the credit limit for each, one by one. And continuing to breathe. And at the end of the exercise of listing everything out that is a liability, a loan, I want you to write down 5 words or phrases, just a couple of little bullet points of how you're feeling, just so they are out of your body and onto paper. It could be, I feel terrible. I can't believe you, like, it's all fine. And I want you to just really stay connected to yourself and write down just whatever you're feeling. Again, it could just be short bullet points. And then from there, I want you to drop into your heart space. And I'm going to ask you to do something that could be kind of challenging, but I'm here and I got your back. I want you to think of me just holding space with you around this. So drop into your heart, look at the piece of paper with all the numbers on it and the itemization of this debt, and say thank you. And breathe. And say thank you to the debt with a new understanding that these resources were given to you when you did not have the resources coming to you in the way you wished. That's normally where shame evolves from, right? Wishing one thing and not receiving it in the way that we want. It's tied deeper to that, but there's the piece of it, right? We didn't get to have the resources we wanted through our job, through our business, through our great Edna, through the lottery ticket that we bought, whatever it is. They came through another channel. The money still flowed. It might not have flowed through the channel that you wanted, but it came to you and you used it. And now that you have all that down, again, you're just in the gratitude of thank you for these resources showing up in my life when I didn't have resources in the way that I wanted. And that's the first step in clearing the energy around it. All right. Back down to the boots on the ground, practical, tactical. Thank you for doing that. Next is to create a plan. So this is where I say having cash flow plan and managing the debt is so key and so freeing. And so you can definitely check out my episode 17 on cash flow. But with cash flow management and debt management coming together in the intersection of that, the results are golden. You get to lead the debt, tell the debt what to do, and feel more confident in control when combining a payoff plan in the cash flow management plan. And several ways to pay off in the plan could be, right, and many of you probably heard this way, pay off the smallest amount first, pay off the one with the highest interest charge. I like to even consider the one where you pay off the debt with the highest glitchiness for you, like I use that debt to bail out someone. I know that's pretty extreme, and I can't stand that person. So why did I do that? Whatever. Sometimes that one's the one that's got you charged is the one to pay off. I've definitely have done that. It's your decision. I trust that you know what the right option is for you. And we won't go through the specifics of what, how to pay that off or what that looks like in cash flow management plan. But I trust you that you will, if this is important to you, you will make the shifts that you need to in order to pay down the debt. I think about my client, Bethany, in this case. She had, I think it was around 60K of debt. And we managed to, through payoff plan and dedication and commitment, devotion, if you will, start to pay that off. And in the midst of that, her credit score increased where she was able to go to her bank and get a line of credit at a lower interest rate than her revolving debt credit card. She could put that back into the business to actually make more revenue by increasing some advertising expenses. She put money into advertising and marketing. She was able to make more revenue to pay off the debt, the initial debt, and as well as the line of credit. So it was really cool to watch that strategy fold. I'm super proud of her commitment. And I guess that is a piece of this, is committing. As much as you committed to taking out the debt, we commit to paying down the debt and using debt intentionally to create a return. Same tool used different ways. So here's the takeaway today. Debt can be used well. Stop blaming debt that it's holding you back. That's just an excuse, and it really doesn't work. It doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve anything. It doesn't serve your business. Lead your debt through awareness. What do I have? How can I pay it back using the tools that I have available to me? How can I lead debt with new debt that comes on again? If you go and get a business loan or something like that, how can I lead that debt with more intentionality of how you use it to grow? When you take it out, actually name it. That's what I've done is like, as I taken out a loan, I have a line of credit for my business. It's like, what is that used for? How will I intentionally invest that back into the business so that I can pay it down? This is what being made for money is all about, my friends. So if this episode landed for you, I bet there's another woman in your life who needs less money drama and less debt and more money flow in her life. I request you share. They would be so grateful. I would be so grateful. And we just let that flow of generosity and abundance move through us all. Remember, you were made for money, and money was made to flow through women like you. I'm so glad you're here. Until next week, bye for now.